Ryan Rickard and Chris Zaldain, your Yamaha Bassmaster Redfish Cup champions.
What's up, guys? This is Dustin Phillips with Shootin the Bull podcast at Bull Bay Tackle Company. I'm here with now Bassmaster Redfish Cup champion Ryan Rickard. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing really good.
That's awesome.
Good.
So if you don't know Ryan, like I've known Ryan for years now, and one of the best anglers in the professional redfish scene. He's routinely in top 10 and always placing really well. And he kind of you hadn't got over the hump for quite a while. He's been bumped to second place a few times, which, second place in these big tournaments, that's nothing to laugh at by any means. I mean, that's big time because there's a lot of boats. You have 80, 90 boats in some of these.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and you're fishing all over, the state, sometimes Louisiana. So lots of difficult circumstances. So first, congratulations on the big win in Texas, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. It was a long time coming, and I'd heard for so long. A lot of guys that had won an event or multiple events on tour had just said, almost in a shocking way, like, man, you've never won one, really? And I'm like, no, man, I've never won one.
I kind of felt that way, too. I was like, no, I swear I remember, him winning one, and it's like, man, that's crazy. Just how well you do overall. It's like, it's almost expected. Like, yeah, he's probably got a trophy case somewhere full of stuff. So
yeah, there's a lot of second places, a lot of third places, a lot of top fives, and I've won some small local things, which unless it's kind of on a bigger scale, I really don't consider those to be wins. I have had team of the years before, but I had never won a really big, national event really, and it was just a long time coming. And glad it got done.
To me, it's almost like, at this point, why not, when you do win, why can't it be on one of the biggest stages? So it's almost bittersweet, right? Like, you got passed on a couple, but now you win this one, and it's like, man, that's a huge thing because the sport, I think, is going to grow tremendously from that event. I think there's a lot that the other redfish tours probably could learn from that and the way it was handled, and I loved it, man. It was fun to tune in and just see that kind of happening live too.
It was ran extremely well. I was so fortunate, would be the proper word, fortunate to be part of that event. I got an invite from one of my sponsors at Skeeter Boats, Yamaha, and was so glad that I got the invite. And let's just say that, put it out there. I mean, again, the word fortunate was right because I wasn't necessarily supposed to be. I'm not the best angler out there. I'm not the best saltwater. There's probably plenty more guys that deserve to be in there over me. But it was one of those things that I was fortunate enough to get the invite. I was very thankful, and the way that deal was ran, to be a part of the Bassmaster Redfish Cup, bringing it back from years and years ago, was phenomenal. And to be able to get it done on that stage, I couldn't have asked for a better first win.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. For people who don't know you, how did you get into tournament fishing and when, and then how did you become so passionate about it?
I got into tournament fishing. I think I could be wrong on my year, but I think I started it right around 2008.
Right.
It wasn't anything on a big scale. It was just some local stuff here.
Right.
I had always loved saltwater fishing since I was a little boy. Fishing for redfish really ate me up since I was little. And, as you get more and more time on the water and you continue to chase those fish and you continue to do well, something else kind of spurs on the inside of you. Like, I really want to do something more with this. And a good friend of mine back in 2008, Chad Clark was his name, and he's still a good friend of mine. He actually kind of came to me one day and said, what do you think about fishing a redfish tournament? Let's just do this. And that's kind of how it started. And I'm really thankful. Hopefully Chad gets to watch this at some point in time. I know I haven't thrown his name around a whole lot, but I have him to thank a lot for getting me into that.
That's cool.
And then just really went from there. Kind of smaller tournaments turned into a little bit bigger tournaments. Then it turned to traveling out of state. Yeah. Then it turned into championship stuff, and now here we are.
So the competitive edge of that, is that really like a big thing? Because I know for me, like playing high school sports even and stuff like that, there's always like that competitive side that you don't quite get as you get older. And I'm learning that now. I'm like, you don't really get to participate and do those type of things. So having the ability to compete against the best of the best in the country, I mean, that's got to be fun, right?
It's unbelievable. It's kind of hard to even describe. It's one of those things that there's a select few guys out there that I look at across our industry in our redfish world that I say every tournament if I can finish above that guy, I've
Right.
accomplished something. And sometimes it's not even always about winning the event for me. Sometimes it's like, if I can accomplish beating this very accomplished angler or set of anglers, I've done really well.
Yeah.
So, man, that competitive nature just eats me up.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's exciting. I fished a few tournaments in my day with Dad back, when we kind of got this going. We were doing that a lot, and that's tough, man. Kudos to you, because I feel like every time you fish a tournament, a lot of times everything goes wrong, and like you can't find the fish, or you're missing. You lost a tackle box like we had before going into. I mean, tournaments are hard. It's not easy to do. So with that, what do you do, and if you do anything special to prepare for a tournament? I mean, obviously it's pre-fishing and stuff, but what goes into like a tournament week for you?
Yeah, so a tournament, number one, so much that you just said I could so elaborate on. But number one, when you're preparing for a tournament, the first thing that has to happen is you got to get your mind right.
Right.
Because what can happen very easily is you can think about all the times in the past
Right.
that things didn't go right, that things that you didn't find the proper fish, or that you made a critical mistake in your guessing of what you should do, or
Right.
making a decision on tournament day or the second day that you should have zigged when you zagged, or vice versa.
Right. Yep.
So the first thing is just getting yourself mentally prepared and in that right state of mind to be able to do that. Secondly is obviously just making sure you have the proper tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, where you guys have a huge play into my career is being able to use a product that you believe in. A lot of guys on tour, a lot of guys in the bass world as well, they're doing things based off of sponsors.
Yeah.
And I have said for many years, even if another company that was a rod company came to me right now and says, we're going to do this better than what you guys do, I don't think I would jump because, well, no, I wouldn't jump because I believe in the product. So you have to also believe in your product. And that's not just because we're sitting here in this interview. Right. That is legit. I have had other companies come to me and say, hey, we want you to do this. I'm like, you know what? I believe in these guys. I believe in the company. I believe in them personally, and I believe in the product. So believing in your product, getting everything set up, and then at that point, you just have to stay calm. Too many times I have allowed my nerves, I guess, per se. I'm not really a nervous person, but my nerves of thinking what I should do to make it a potential win get in the way of the effectivity of my fishing. So you just got to make sure your mind stays right.
Yeah, absolutely. And mental, any part of the mental game of fishing like that, it's tough. If you haven't done a tournament before, you don't realize, like, when you start a day and you're not on fish immediately, or like your spots aren't blowing up. I mean, a lot of people, maybe they cave or they start running all over the place. And it's like on a tournament day for you, how hard is it to like stick with the initial plan versus like, having to switch it up, and kind of what would lead you into switching up on tournament day?
That's a good question, man, because I do believe there are times that you stick with your plan, and I believe there are times that you have to deviate from that plan. And it's a difficult thing to decide. As an example, so this tournament I was just in, we had multiple plays.
Right.
And after day one, we were sitting exactly where I said we needed to be to have a shot to go into day three. Well, day two came, wind direction shifted. I had already planned for that wind direction shift. However, the fish just were not there. They were not there. They didn't show. And inside myself, in the normal situation, I would probably be thinking, I got to scramble, I got to scramble, I got to scramble. But, in that moment, I just settled in myself and thought, you know what? This is the area we found the heaviest fish.
Right.
I know these fish are around somewhere in this area. They haven't left here completely.
Right.
Maybe they've shifted in an area a little bit, but we stuck with our plan in that instance. And on day three, it was mayhem, and it was a good thing of mayhem, and it paid off. So it's just, there's a fine line of knowing when to do that.
Right. I'm sure weather and stuff like that can play a big part, because I know you could pre-fish all week and it's crystal clear, and then you got storms on. I think I saw a video of yours not long ago where you're fishing and it looked like you were in like a monsoon, and I'm just like, that just is a normal tournament day most of the time, because stuff just goes wrong. So
it is.
It's pretty cool. But one thing too I think is incredible about this win is the fact that you don't fish there. You're not from Texas. There's really not a ton of redfish events that we take part in Texas. Mm-hmm. So you're going from Tampa Bay all the way up over to Port Aranis, and that's, how do you make that, transition to that fishery? How different is it from here? What is there any adjustments that you had to make?
Yeah, anywhere that I go, I mean, I fished from here to Georgia to South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas.
Right.
Which I say Texas, I've been there twice now in my life.
Yep.
What I typically try to do is I'm looking at Google Maps just to say, okay, what looks fishy to me?
Right.
Then when you look at the whole entirety we had a 90-mile zone we could fish in Port Aransas, so kind of south of Corpus Christi all the way up to Port O'Connor jetties. And when you look at the scope of that map, you're like, gosh, everything looks right. Everything looks good. It's like, where do you start? So then you just literally have to we had 3 days.
Right.
So this was not like a normal tournament where we could go a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance or whatever.
Right.
We had 3 days.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody had 3 days. We're not on a casting platform, so we can't visually see what I typically would like to see.
Right.
So we're just having to use the old school patterning of a flat.
Yeah.
Look for bait flow. Look for cleaner water. Look for grass and potholes.
Just read and react. Really.
Yeah, read and react. And so, I just basically picked it. I had been there before about a month and a half prior to that on another tournament.
Right.
And what I did is tried to use some of those areas I had found then, which were no good at all. Zero. I mean, there was no fish there. So I just had to kind of, go with my old school mentality of, hey, I'm going to go find bait flow, clean water, potholes, and grass. And that's what we did. And tried to pattern it out of knowing that higher winds were coming, trying to find something that we would have reprieve no matter what the wind did.
Right.
That was our plan as well. And, I've heard for so long from the guys that have won it or won an event that whenever it's your time, everything goes perfect.
Yeah.
And I can't even describe that any better than from step one to final step of winning.
Yeah.
Everything went perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, there was no mess ups. There was no snag ups. I never got nervous inside myself. Everything was right. We didn't miss fish. We didn't pull hooks. It just was right.
Yeah. That was fun to watch that last day. And when you say everything went right, just from our outside looking in and watching it live and stuff, is like, I was sitting there, talking to Dad, and I'm like, I just can't see a way that they lose this. And then, as I say that, I think 20 minutes later, you stuck even bigger. What was it, almost 9-pounder, or was it 9?
It was a 9.
Is that your biggest tournament fish?
Not ever. I have caught a 10 1/4 before in Louisiana. One. But not listen.
Yeah, Louisiana, I could see it.
When you catch any fish that's approaching that 9-pound slot fish weight, you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you just don't catch them all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's guys that catch them more than others. There's no doubt about it. But what I'm trying to find is the heaviest stock of fish. Like a lot of people are like, I'm trying to find the longest fish. Well, that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
Because you can have a 27-inch fish that weighs 6.5 pounds. Yeah. You have a 27-inch fish that weighs 9.5 pounds.
Yeah, one's eating real good and one's just long.
When we pre-fished and we found this spot on the final day of our pre-fishing.
Right.
And when we found that spot, the first fish we caught was, I think, 24 inches, but he was like almost 7 pounds at 24 inches. We were like, okay, this is the right stock. If we grow him a little bit,
just a little bit bigger in that group,
that's
you got some good.
And then we caught a couple at 8, and we were like, hey, let's call it right here, and this is where we're going to fish.
Yeah. So one interesting thing in this tournament, I think that was, to me, it's like, it could either make or break you, is you get paired up with, was it Chris Zaldain?
Chris Zaldain.
So you've never fished with him before, though, right?
No.
Did you know him at all?
No, I knew of Chris. I did not know Chris.
Yeah. So what's it like jumping in the ring with somebody you don't know? You don't know if you even mesh together, if your personalities, getting on a boat with them for 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever it is. Like, what is that like in the tournament?
Yeah.
Because you normally get a pick and you got guys that you know and you're confident. In this scenario, it's like, you really have no idea, right?
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, again, I knew of him. I knew that he liked to throw swim baits. I knew that he liked to throw spoons, which those are the 2 top baits that I'll throw. So that was some common ground there. Now, just to put this out there, he and I, neither one had any say-so in our pairing.
Right.
So this was paired up from other outside parties than us. We just happened to get paired. And when I first had the phone call to Chris, just kind of discussing what this was going to be like, I mean, from the first phone call on, I knew that it was the right pairing.
Right.
He was extremely passionate about fishing. He didn't know a lot about the red fishing thing, but I knew his style was my style.
Yeah.
And so then after that, I kind of looked at a few videos of him, and I was like, this is a really amped up guy on the boat. I'm a really amped up guy on the boat. Like, this might work.
Yeah.
And then our first day of pre-fishing, when we met, And we pre-fished the very first day. I was a little bit kind of not sure how to, I guess, act with him because, listen, at the end of the day, none of us redfish guys fish on the pro circuit for a living, right?
Right.
Whereas these guys fish for a living. That's what they do in the back. So I'm like, this guy's a true pro. I'm not a true pro where this is all I do for a living. And I didn't want him to feel like I was overstepping my bounds, but he was really awesome with me. And he kind of took a step back and said, hey, I'm going to watch what you do. And I'm going to kind of emulate what you do. And you just tell me what's going on.
That's pretty cool.
And it was, man, I tell you, he had said, we did a little interview the other day after we won, and he had said a very interesting point. He said, if you watch the footage, the pairing was so perfect because we were so in sync.
Oh, yeah. Like, you looked like your buddies, like, fishing together.
Absolutely. And everybody said it. It was like he would be a step in front of me, or I would be a step in front of him, or even our casting, like, I would cast, he would cast, or he would cast, I would cast, and it would be on, like, the same style, but a little bit different angle, and it was just so perfect.
It all came together.
It all came together.
Chris Zaldain and Ryan Rickard. Only took me 3 days. 25 pounds, 15-ounce start today. They need 14 pounds, 10 ounces to take the lead. 2 fish. 17 pounds, 5 ounces. 17.5. And Rickard and Zaldain are your brand new leaders. Let's hear it for Hudnall and Houston as they make their way out the stage. A great tournament. Look at these fish, ladies and gentlemen. Boom, shakalaka, giant redfish.
That's, I'm sure that's a little intimidating going into it because you're like, you don't have control over so much in this scenario.
Right.
And it's like, all right, get out in this foreign area really and just try to figure it out. So that's pretty cool.
That's it.
One thing I want to just throw out there. So you fish everywhere. Mm-hmm. What, if you have a favorite, but what is your favorite fishery for red fishing?
Texas now. No, Texas. You know what?
I know you're a Louisiana guy too. You go there a lot.
I am. There's quite a few places that kind of have my heart. Obviously, Port Aransas, Texas will always have my heart, being the first place that I won. But outside of that, the Texas fishery, that Corpus Christi, Aransas Bay, Matagorda, the Lower Laguna Madre is a fishery. To me, I think I said it, that it's like Florida on steroids.
Right.
Like there are so many fish around there, and the fish. I mean, we have fish around here too.
Yeah,
their fish are like. They respond better, in my opinion. Like their fish aren't so spooky. You can catch a lot of them. You can catch the very heavy fish. Louisiana always has my heart because that's the.
I do have. What's the water like in where you're fishing at? Was it like muggy, dirty? Was it clear, grassy?
You actually have a little bit. Yeah, it depends on where you go in that ecosystem. So.
That's why I was curious because I've never fished.
Typically the southern areas like Corpus Christi and South had gin clear water. Like it was the most beautiful water you've ever seen. And actually, for us, we didn't find our fish in gin clear water. We found our fish. What was interesting was every tournament I go into, I have to pattern things. And the pattern here is we didn't necessarily have to have one component to pattern it. We had to have 4 things. If you had all 4 of these things, we needed a bait flow.
Yep.
We needed grass. We needed potholes, and we needed a little bit of smoke in the water. Like it was clean water, but not gin clear. Like that little bit smoky. There was an evident line on our flat where we were fishing, where you had the gin clear water, and then this kind of line where it kind of got a little smoky.
Yeah.
And the fish would feed in the smoky water.
Gotcha.
They would not eat in that clean water for us.
Yeah.
For us.
That makes sense.
So
that being said, when you're dealing with that type of water and stuff, how does the average person, what should they look for when choosing the right colors, and like how do you fish those type of waters? Is there a couple, or do you have like a specific bait that you like to use for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some favorites that I always have. Number one, I mean, the very first thing tied on my rod is a strike first paddle tail in golden shiner.
Yeah.
I don't care what condition, what scenario, it doesn't matter. Now, because that's my confidence bait, I've won more money on that bait than any bait I've ever thrown in my life. So that's my confidence. And I say that to people all the time, like, hey, what should I use? What should I use? I'm like, what do you like to throw? And some guys will say, well, I love to throw spoons. Okay, then that would be your confidence bait. So you throw that spoon. Well, what color? Well, what color do you like? Well, I like copper. That's your confidence bait. And it's amazing, bro, because listen to this real quick story. So Zaldain loves throwing swim baits too.
Right.
And he has one called the Mag Draft. And this thing's like a 7-inch big monstrosity bait, right? And he says to me during the tournament, he's like, you think they'd hit this big Mag Draft? I was like, do you want me to answer that honestly or do you want me to feed your ego?
Right.
He's like, no. I said, they ain't going to touch that thing. Well, guess what? He picked it up and threw it, and he was hammering it.
Oh, my gosh.
It's his confidence bait.
He works it perfectly.
He knows how to use it. He feels like he said it. I feel like instead of wondering when I'm going to get a bite, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm throwing a strike first, knowing that I'm getting ready to get a hit.
Yeah.
So it's all about confidence. Not as much to me about the scenario of differentiation of colors or scenarios. It's to me about what you are confident in.
Okay. Yeah, because you can get analytical as all get out and have every variation. Like I have this exact one with 3 different tail colors.
Right.
And blah, blah, and it just goes on and on. So I was just curious because I'm like, I like to throw like quarter-ounce jigs, and Dad likes to throw topwater.
Yeah.
He will throw topwater all day during the tournament, and he'll miss fish, but he'll stick one, like that. But again, confidence versus, being maybe over-analyzing a little bit. Because I think when, especially if there's pressure involved, like of a tournament, you might question yourself or switch baits over and over. Like if you're not careful, that can get out of control.
Yeah, there are times that you definitely have to make that switch. As an example, if I'm throwing a paddle tail and I'm seeing fish maybe follow me and not commit, or they're short nipping me and short nipping me and short nipping me, I'm like, okay, they're not wanting to fully commit on this bait. Then you start to go outside of that. Then I go to my secondary confidence bait, the spoon. Then I go to my third confidence bait, like a bigger stick shad kind of hard bait. Yeah. You just keep going until you figure out the temperament of the fish.
Okay. Now, so I know obviously because we've built you lots of rods over the years. When you're throwing these baits and stuff, what do you like to use? Like you can just explain. You don't have to get specific on models, but what length, action, and then if you want to touch on those ones we made you custom and why.
Yeah. So I'm big into the 8-17 as far as the class rod. I want an 8 to 17 blank. That's how I like to fish. I don't like a super fast, like flimsy rods. So the lower class weights don't work for my style.
Right.
But it also depends on how I'm fishing. So if I'm fishing from the deck like we just came from, I like to have and I know this sounds backwards to people because you typically think you'd want a longer rod for longer casting. I like a 7-footer. Okay. Really? I like an 8-17 7-foot. I use the assault rod and the sniper both. And I use the Banshee as well that just came out. But I like that shorter rod, and I think it's just the comfort of when I set the hook of how the rod feels to me, and a little bit less weight. Yeah. But I also like if I'm up on a platform, I've got a 7-foot platform that I stick in the front of my boat for sight cast in Louisiana, which again it's backwards. I'm using a 7.6 sniper,
a little bit longer.
Yep. But it's still the same blank 8-17, and I use those just because. I try to lighten it up as much as I can. I use the EVA. Yeah. I use all the EVA stuff. I don't do the cork. Again, I'm trying to get the lightest thing that I possibly can because we're making so many casts. You don't want to just wear yourself out during the day. But the sensitivity of those rods, the castability of those rods, I mean, I cannot speak any more highly about what the product that I use to get it done.
Much appreciated. So I do know, too, we've custom made you some with like really long butt links and stuff.
Yeah.
Why do you like those longer butt links? Because most people are like, no, like you hate that length. But when we made you those, I was almost like, man, this actually feels really good. Like it balances really well with that medium heavy, especially.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lighter action blinks would feel quite as good, but for some reason, I feel like you almost dialed that in for us with that butt length.
Yeah, basically, I like that longer butt length on a lot of situations because, especially like, say I'm up sight fishing up on the tower, that butt length will ride down my arm here and almost get to my elbow.
Get
so like, yes, I have a lot of control. Instead of the butt coming to my mid forearm, it's coming down almost to my elbow, and I have a lot of control of that fish. A lot of these fish we're fishing for are so heavy that you can't and you're fishing a lot of grass.
Right.
And in redfish, if you let that fish get his face down that grass, you're done.
Yeah.
So you have to really keep their head up, and that allows me to really pull and control to keep his head up out of the grass.
Yep. That's again, whenever we first made those, I don't think I had ever made them with I think normal rod is like 8.5 inches from the bottom of the reel seat, and you had us make them I think it was 11 and a half or something. And I was like, I don't know about this, I don't know, but when I'm telling you, when they're done, they felt great. It might be something we mess with on a more, normal basis, going forward. 'Cause right now it's like, getting more variety out there. But so on those rods, you got any particular reel you like, and line rating on tournament day?
I do. I'm big into, not because they're one of my sponsors. Again, I believe in the product. It's Quantum Smokes. I only
so light. They're super light.
I only tournament fish with them. They did improve their drag clicker system, their drag system a few years ago, which made their reel so much better with the smoke. The Quantum PTS 30. That's all I use for tournament fishing. Okay. I am strictly a spinning reel guy.
I love the feel of them. They're super light.
Yeah, they're awesome. Line, you know what? I've tried so much line, and I keep trying to go away from it. It keeps bringing me back as Power Pro. The original Power Pro, not the Super Slick, the original Power Pro. And I just don't have issues with that stuff breaking, and that's why I use it.
Particular line weight wise, do you have a preference?
Depends on if I'm fishing in Florida or if I'm fishing heavy grass in Louisiana.
Let's just talk Florida to keep it general.
Florida right now, I'm throwing 15-pound Power Pro braided line, and then I throw typically somewhere between a 20 or 25-pound fluorocarbon.
Gotcha. And that's probably more than enough strength to land those fish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got to make sure your drag set correctly and not try to horse them too much or not try to play them too light. A lot of the bass guys, which Zaldain did great, but a lot of the bass guys like to really play that drag, and you can't give a redfish drag. You have to make sure you stay tight on him. They're really good about shaking that hook.
Yeah.
So he did a great job.
So he came over in the redfish scene some and all that. So you got any plans to get into the bass world in tournaments?
Zero. I have no plan at all. I told him it was funny because a few times he had said to me, like, "Man, you make me want to quit bass fishing." I know he wasn't. It was more of a joke, but he just really loved the way those fish hit, the way they pulled. And I have. It's great to watch bass fishing. I've done it. It just doesn't do anything for me. I think Derek Hudnall said at one point in time, he's a bass guy as well, and he had said during the tournament, he said, "Man, these redfish pull so hard." He's like, "I thought smallmouth pulled hard." He's like, "But these redfish would drown smallmouth if they tied the tails together." So it's just a fish that eats me up. That redfish eats me up.
I almost think they're perfect. You got they fight hard, they school up, and you can get in big, and even the small ones are fun too at times. I mean, they're just a fun fish to catch, and like you said, I think bass. I think bass. I almost like watching like the bass tournaments and stuff. I love watching the guys go crazy with the hook sets. But every time I bass fish, it does leave like a little bit of desire whenever you have hooked up to redfish over and over. It's like night and day difference. So so no Bassmaster tour status.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If there was ever some sort of invite, I would have to probably consider that. But it wouldn't be something that would be my.
Well, then it becomes a job.
Then it becomes a job. It wouldn't be something that would be my preference to do for fun. Let's put it that way.
Last little bit, is there anything that you think if somebody was to start tournament fishing brand new right now, what's any tips or advice you would give them to get started?
That's actually a difficult question. Don't get discouraged real quick.
Right.
Coming from a guy that's done this since 2008 and fished many, many, many tournaments, had 17 second place finishes, tons of top fives, never had a win. Don't get frustrated.
Yeah.
I heard so long, your time will come, your time will come, your time will come. And sometimes you feel like it never will. And you see a lot of the success of people that I got to be careful I say this. There's sometimes I've looked at specific events and thought, how did that guy just win this? I've been around. I know the preparation, and it was complete luck.
Yeah.
And you do have to have some of that luck in order to make that happen. But you can't control anybody else but you.
Absolutely.
You have to control you and yourself and allow the cards to fall where they're going to prepare the best you can.
Yeah.
Stay mentally right. Don't get frustrated, and let the cards fall where they're going to fall.
And use your confidence base.
For sure, and your confidence pride.
I think, honestly, that right there, if I was going to tuck a nugget away, it's using something you can work consistent and land fish on. Because, I think I've been in the scenario where it's not working immediately and you're jumping around and then you end up, not catching anything.
That's it.
I think that's a huge one. So
that's it.
It's been a pleasure. And guys, tune in. We'll hit some different topics over the next few weeks. But it's been a pleasure to have Mr. Rickard here, the new Bassmaster Redfish Cup champion of the world. Nobody can take that away from you.
Not at this point.
And that is well-deserved, my friend.
Appreciate it.
So thanks, guys.
17 second place finishes, but none of those number twos matter today because you are number one and you are a Bassmaster Redfish Cup champion. How does that feel?
I'll try to get this out. First of all, I want to thank Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And my wife for being here. Whew. I apologize for my emotions, guys. I've been doing this since 2008. I've been on the stage. I've been bumped so many times. I can't even express the emotion that I feel right now. I feel like I'm just about to faint, really, but because it doesn't seem real. But, you know, Zaldain said on the boat today, he said, you know, whenever it happens, that day that it happens, something special happens. And I'm going to tell you, today was so special on the bite. I've never had a final day like today was. And we almost questioned ourselves yesterday to make a different plan and do something that we hadn't done. And we had another area to go to. But we left out of here yesterday, and I said, hey, can I just talk through some things with you? I said, this is what I'm feeling. I know that we can go over there and catch probably 7+ pound fish, but we know where our heaviest fish are. I know they weren't there today, but, bro, that's our best shot. He said, man, I'm fully in. We went down there today. As soon as we pulled up, I'm like, it's right. It's going to be special, and it was super special today.
It was incredible to watch go down, and, man, nobody was stopping that. I'd like to bring up Connor from Yamaha to hand off the check, $50,000 for your Yamaha Bassmaster Redfish Cup champions.